Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Commerce Today, one of the first of 2026. And I'm excited. We are actually going to talk about the 90-day e-commerce leader sprint and how you can kick off the year on a great start. January is by far the best time to kind of reset and set your e-commerce roadmap. So I want to introduce you to this concept of the 90-day e-commerce leader sprint. It's a very structured approach to building out a Q1 plan. It actually connects business KPIs, operational constraints, and even your own career growth all together into one plan. Also going to talk a little bit about why I think 90-day planning is the way to go versus having a big annual plan, especially in 2026. A little hint has something to do with AI, of course. And as always, I like to help e-commerce leaders figure out exactly how do you talk to your CFO and the folks in finance when you're trying to get these plans approved. The pace of AI and agentic commerce is changing things just so fast. It's pushing leaders towards much shorter planning cycles. The episode right before this one, I introduced you to the second AI e-commerce related protocol that Google has released in the space of about 6 months. So even big companies like Google are having a hard time kind of setting a course for a year. They announced one protocol, said, this is the way. And then only a few months later said, oh, just kidding. We found another protocol that we're going to build instead that we think is going to be better. Your strategy being set and adapting in real time is becoming the new normal. And I would say that anybody that tells you they can predict exactly where e-commerce is going to be at the end of the year, exactly where AI or technology is going to be at the end of the year, they're probably a little misguided or maybe a little too self-confident, because just look at how much has changed thinking back a year, thinking back 6 months. You haven't been trying some of these AI tools, you might be saying, oh, things aren't changing that fast, but trust me, they are. The pace of change with Codex and with Claude Code, so basically OpenAI or ChatGPT and Anthropic or Claude, those systems, they are getting smarter and smarter, but also they're getting more and more capabilities. Claude recently had a new version kind of release called Claude Cowork that can actually work alongside you, use your computer, and you can hand off a lot of tasks that used to you would give to maybe a junior employee or an intern. You can hand it off straight to Claude Cowork and it can finish it up for you. A lot of the market research, the competitive analysis, a lot of that type of stuff. Now you can sit down at your computer, you can delegate that off, go work on something else, come back, and it's just done. And it's done in like 10 or 15 minutes. So again, things are changing faster and faster. Because of this, I'm seeing boards and executives shift towards shorter planning horizons. So they're going to expect you to make shorter plans, shorter projections. And that's where I think this 90-day plan works out great and is a great way to start the year. So with a 90-day plan, I recommend you try to fit it all on one page. You can have supporting details. You can have ChatGPT go out and write you a whole novel if you want, but really try to get the crux of your 90-day plan of what you're trying to accomplish in your e-commerce business or with your e-commerce operations all into one page. And I would start it with a goal. I wouldn't have 2 goals. I wouldn't have 3 goals. I wouldn't have 6 goals. I would have one goal that if in the next 90 days we accomplish this goal, then we will have moved our e-commerce business and our career forward in a meaningful way. Under that goal, I would have KPIs, and we'll talk about those here in a second. I would have priorities of what is most important towards working towards that goal. This priorities list actually becomes a really good filter over the next 90 days, because if it's not on the priorities list, you're basically saying, okay, these are things, if they're not on the priorities list, I'm going to say no to them. I'm going to say not now. I'm going to say later. I'm going to really keep my focus on the priorities that will move me towards that goal. Initiatives. So basically, what projects do you need to complete in order to accomplish that goal? Risks and stakeholders. And you don't need huge long paragraphs for each of those. For things like stakeholders, it can just be a list of 4 or 5 people, job roles, customer roles that you're thinking of as you're setting this 90-day plan. Again, keep it simple. Your CFO doesn't want a 47 slide deck. Over the years, I have seen some really smart, really successful people in the world of e-commerce build out these beautiful 47 slide decks that they then present to their board or their CFO or their CEO, outlining the whole year for e-commerce. They don't want that. You want something simple. A simple one pager is more than enough for putting together one of these 90-day plans. Also, please don't make this a wish list. If it's something that you know that isn't physically possible, you don't have the resources, you don't have the money, Maybe you're a $1 million company and your 90-day goal is to become a $1 billion company. Don't do that. This needs to be a real executable plan, especially when you're setting just one goal and you're focusing on it for 90 days. It has to be a goal that you can achieve that still moves the needle. All right, so I mentioned KPIs, and I absolutely think you should have 2 to 3 KPIs tied to this goal and this 90-day plan. These KPIs must be revenue facing. They need to have some sort of tie to your revenue. They need to be operational, and especially something that you can control through your operations. And ideally, they're leading indicators. So these need to be things that change relatively quickly before you reach your goal. Good example of this is traffic going up can be a good leading indicator of sales going up as well. If you're just buying junk traffic, maybe not, but I've ranted about that in enough episodes. Y'all know my thoughts on that. But basically, that's what you need to think about is what will allow us through the KPI. Because again, we only have 90 days to reach this goal. So we don't want to get to day 89 and say, oops, we missed. So what would allow us maybe at day 30 to say, hey, we're on track towards reaching our goal for the next 90 days, or whoa, we're way off track and we need to make some changes and do some course corrections. I would absolutely map every one of those initiatives that I mentioned earlier for your 90-day plan. Each of those should be tied into a measurable outcome, ideally one that is measured by or influences these KPIs that you're setting. Also, I know a lot of people really want to have 12 metrics, 12 KPIs, 14 KPIs, 18 KPIs. And I'm not saying that things like your bounce rate, your time on site, all those other wonderful things you can pull from Google Analytics, I'm not saying those aren't important. But for your 90-day plan, for the thing you're going to focus on for the next 90 days, how you're going to measure your success, you need a short number of metrics and KPIs. If you have 10, 20, 30, they're not going to grab the same attention and get the same focus from you as if you have just 2 or 3. So if you set just 2 or 3 KPIs, those are truly your key performance indicators for the next 90 days for reaching that goal. You're going to be a lot more successful with this plan. The one piece I feel like everybody or most people miss, and it's the piece that really separates out the people that I've seen that have had an okay time in e-commerce versus the ones that have had a really successful career. And that is when you're setting these plans, yes, think of what's best for the company. Think of what will help the company grow, what's going to improve your e-commerce outcomes, but think about your career. So think about what could possibly change the scope of your role? How could you increase the scope of your role? How could you give yourself more influence? How could you actually just make your department and the work you're doing more visible to the people that are above you in the org chart? And really start thinking through what you can do as you're implementing this plan, and then as you're celebrating the success after your 90-day plan is successful, that will position you for a promotion or for expanded responsibility. So really think through what are maybe 1 to 2 career moves that the 90-day plan you're putting together for your e-commerce team is going to support. And again, that's something that a lot of people don't think about, or it feels weird to think about. You got to bring them together. It is in these 90-day plans and how you execute on them that you will determine how your role improves and how it expands with the company you're at, or realizing that you've topped out and done the most you can with the company you're at, and you might have to move on to another company. Having a successful initiative packaged up in a 90-day plan where you can even point to your KPIs and say, before we executed my plan, these were the numbers. Afterwards, those were the numbers. That'll help you whether you're having internal conversations about promotions or raises, or external conversations and interviews with a potential new job. So this is a lot, and there's a lot more detail to it. I think there may be a whole other book coming in 2026. After writing the e-commerce growth playbook in 2025, I realized that really need one that helps e-commerce leaders with their role and their career. Definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Joshua Warren. I'm the CEO of Creativity and the host here on Commerce Today. So you can DM me there, chat through and answer any questions you have. Or if you're like, wow, this is a lot, but it's important, I just want to get it done, I'm actually offering a 90-day e-commerce leader sprint program and package. And the way that'll work is we'll have a 90-minute working session together, me and you. I'll listen to where you're at right now in your career, where you're at right now in the e-commerce world, and what your company is trying to do. I will take that back to my team. We will do lots of number crunching, planning, and put together a draft 90-day sprint plan for you. And then we'll meet again for another 30-minute session, and talk through what that plan looks like, get your feedback, tweak it, and actually doing a little pilot program of this in the month of January. This ends January 31st, so hopefully you're watching or listening to this before January 31st. And we're going to do a pilot rate of just $2,000 for that 90-day e-commerce sprint. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Joshua Warren and would love to chat with you. You can also book a free 30-minute consultation with me directly on my LinkedIn profile. So thanks and good luck with all your 2026 planning and goals.